How does the current administration rank in their approach to public health compared with the Bush administration?
It's right now it's very much up in the air. This is an administration that you don't want to underestimate. Came in with a tremendous economic crisis, which has become a tremendous fiscal crisis, and there was they've had a lot on their plate. There's no question. They have made a couple of initiatives on global health. One of which is an agriculture initiative, which I think is really quite important, a next stage initiative on these issues. Africa is a case, and talk about Bill Gates, who is very focused on this side of things, where we've had a green revolution in India, we've had a green revolution in China, which have been tremendous moral achievements, even though they've had some environmental, challenges. And Gates talks about how we need now a green revolution in Africa. The agricultural output in most parts of Africa has been pretty much stable since the 1950s, and that's not adequate for a growing population. And there are a lot of debates, with genetically modified, and other things, but no one really disagrees that there has to be a kind of major emphasis on agriculture in Africa. So the administration, to their credit, has put new emphasis on that and put some funding into that. They also have something called the GHI, the Global Health Initiative, which takes a lot of these programs and tries to put them in a broader context of building health infrastructure, because that's one of the things you see when you spend any time there, is you do a disease-specific initiative on malaria or AIDS, and it has a good effect, but it reveals that other parts of the system are not where they need to be. There is in many places in Africa, there's just a real problem with the infrastructure to provide assistance. I'm just afraid, though, that going into a new Congress and in this new environment, and on the funding side, there have been marginal increases, which has really kept things at a kind of in a stable state. And there's really one area where there's a significant amount of even ideological continuity between the two administrations. But this is going to be an unbelievably difficult budget cycle that we're headed into, both to try to defend existing spending and to do anything new. The prospective or impossible Speaker Boehner has talked about, he hasn't put it this way, but effectively talked about, going back to 2008 levels of discretionary spending, which would amount to over a 20% cut across the board in spending. He has exempted national security spending. And part of the effort, I think, that we're going to have at one is to try to say, stabilization spending, reconstruction spending, development spending, that's also national security spending. It's kind of calling a bluff, because all of our military people believe that. They understand it. It's kind of an essential commitment of COIN strategy, of counterinsurgency strategy that was developed in Iraq and is being applied in Afghanistan. But we don't really fund it the way that we should. I'll give you one example. I was at a dinner the other night with the Undersecretary for Acquisitions at the Defense Department, the guy who spends all of the money at the Defense Department. President Obama announced that we now have a civilian mission in Afghanistan, no longer a military mission. We're making the transition to a kind of development-centered strategy rather than a military-centered strategy. We still got a lot of people on the ground, but they're going to be doing different things. And right now, in the budget they're putting together, they can't find any money in the system for State Department people doing development in Iraq to have cars, to have security, to have where they're going to get money for food. Okay? Because there's no category in the budget to do it if the Defense Department doesn't pay for it. And so we kind of talk a good game on the soft power side, and we don't really devote much funding to it. So, they're going to be, I hope that they stand up for this category of spending in the way that they need to. And I hope Republicans don't target it in the way they shouldn't. The example here is David Cameron, new Prime Minister in Great Britain. He came in promising, to avoid the economic fate of Greece, came in promising 25% cuts in discretionary spending in Great Britain, but he exempted healthcare and development. And I don't think Republicans are going to do that officially, but I think that it's going to be a very important debate.